And welcome to another episode of Around the 412 Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Smitty. With me, as always, is my co-host, Donnie Druin. Donnie, what's going on?
Man, prayers were answered today. Prayers were answered. Zeke finally signed, and that's the biggest sigh of relief I've probably ever had playing fantasy.
So, are you a Zeke owner?
Yeah, I am. So in
You
my
are?
keeper
Okay.
league, yeah.
Okay. Me as well. I drafted him last Saturday in the league. He fell to 7th, so I was like, I got to take this chance here. If not him, it would have been like Michael Thomas. So I felt like it was worth the risk for me to take him. I got Julio coming back down too. So,
Ooh, super nice. Yeah, so he fell to number 8 in a draft I did, and obviously he fell because of the whole contract situation. But what value? Like, tremendous value. You're getting one of the best running backs in the league all the way at pick number 8. For some leagues, that's like near end of the first round, like turn of the second.
right. Yeah, and I mean, I'm not sure what the workload is going to be. I know they said today 20 to 25 snaps, but getting the game action, if he rips off a couple long runs at the beginning of that game, say he has 100 yards before he's taken 20, 25 snaps, it's not like all of a sudden you're just going to slow him down.
Right, yeah, and that's kind of one of the things you have to monitor if you are a Zeke owner like you and I, is, yeah, he's playing, but do you want to start him? You know, if he's looking at 20 to 25 touches a game, or sorry, not a game, but just like in the first, was it snaps or touches?
The snaps in general, not 20, 25
Okay.
touches. It says 20, 25
Got
snaps,
you.
yeah.
So that is a little concerning. If you were smart and picked up Tony Pollard, would you entertain sitting Zeke if he's only going to see 20 or 25 snaps?
I don't know. It's such a dilemma, and it's honestly something that I'm still sitting on. So it's like
Yep.
hard for. I know that we're supposed to be giving fantasy advice here, but like trying to take my own advice, I don't even know what I'm doing yet. So
Yeah, you know, I've Marlon Mack sitting pretty on the bench, and I'm kind of eyeballing him.
yeah. See, in the league that I have Zeke in, my other running backs are Montgomery and Jacobs, and then I have Tony Pollard as well.
Smart.
And I could also use a receiver in the flex if I were to choose to do that. So hold on, let me actually pull up that team. But actually, honestly, Donnie, you're not on our regular show, so even though this doesn't really relate to fantasy football, I know that you have a pretty cool announcement that you've already made. Most people know about it, but how about on the stream, just letting everybody know what's going on with you personally?
I appreciate that first and foremost. Thank you. You make me blush right now. So I accept the position. Covering the Steelers for Sports Illustrated, and it's super exciting. I read this magazine as a kid, and obviously, 30 years things kind of went to online and like interweb reading and stuff. So while I don't expect anything I write to be featured in the magazine, but it's just like even be associated with that is definitely like I can say that like I accomplished one of my goals in life. So.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've already told you congratulations on everything again, but once again, congratulations. And like you said, I mean, you just said you don't expect to see anything featured in the magazine, but at the same time, if you were sitting here in the past, you probably would have said you don't even expect to write for Sports Illustrated. So it's just another thing now that you can reach for.
Had you told me a year ago that I would be in the position I am, do this podcast with you, covering fantasy football for Fantasy Pros, writing for Sports Illustrated, I wouldn't have believed you. I really wouldn't have believed you. And, to kind of turn like a fantasy lesson into life, it's just never give up. Like, there's always brighter days ahead. And, last year wasn't exactly the best for me. I found myself in, a couple of dark places, but I'm here, and I couldn't be happier. And just things always get better.
Right. Yeah. I appreciate the words of wisdom as well there at the end, and I'm sure that people listening to this will as well. I haven't seen too much activity in the chat yet. People probably still coming in. This is a good hour for us to be streaming prime time. Most people are off work, especially back my way, 8 p.m. That's prime time. So I don't know if people are watching the Pirates or whatever, but hopefully you're going to be coming in here and joining. Anybody that's listening to this but
TV,
not... Oh, go ahead.
From the TV camera I saw, nobody's watching the Pirates tonight at PNC.
Yeah, right. That's true. There's like 9,000 people at the game tonight because they're back in
Yikes.
Pittsburgh right now. So, yeah. But anyway, so if you are following us on Twitch, you should have the notifications on. That way you'll know when we come on and do this live, whether it be this or the regular show. if you're listening back to this on whether it be on whatever one of the platforms we are on, we tweeted out which platforms we're on because I didn't even know that we were on some of those. Like we put it on Spreaker, and that link goes everywhere possible pretty much. So wherever you're listening to this at, if you head on over to twitch.tv/around the412, you can hit the follow and hit the notification so you know when we're live every single time. If you're watching on YouTube, same thing. But if you're watching on YouTube, you can see our beautiful faces every week. And I know Donnie can't see it, but I got my terrible towel right here now too. The NFL season starting tomorrow and the Steelers playing Sunday night.
Love it.
So
love it.
All right, now that what the people are here for.
Comedy.
What do we want to jump into?
Well, I feel like we kind of tapped into the Zeke situation a little bit. Do you have any further thoughts on that? Or do you kind of want to leave it as is? You there?
As far as the Zeke situation, I feel like we've kind of run its course on it.
Yeah.
I think that if you're a Zeke owner, you're very happy with the news today, but at the same time probably take it. I don't want to say with a grain of salt, but week one's going to be a little bit more difficult. After week one, I think the training wheels are going to be off. But as far as week one, this 20 to 25 snaps thing kind of worries me a little bit. But it could just be, them trying to throw off the Giants. It could just be them, handling him with kid gloves. Although I think Ezekiel Elliott's above handling somebody with kid gloves. I think it's going to be more so the flow of the game. If he's looking like his old self, he's that 20-25 snaps, he's getting blown out of the water.
Definitely, yeah. And, to kind of compare situations, whenever Le'Veon Bell held out and came back week 1 2 years ago, he only saw 10 touches, I think, the entire game. He saw a very minimal amount of snaps, whether or not that was conditioning or, him not, going through practice regimes like he should have. That's definitely something to monitor. So while, he brings a lot of value because his name's Ezekiel Elliott, and like you said, game flow gets thrown out the window if he busts open a 50-yard run. But at the same time, it really is something to monitor. So I guess through the week, just kind of pay attention to reports and trust your gut at the end of the day. But going from one running back to another, LaShawn McCoy decided to sign with the Kansas City Chiefs. 1 year deal, I believe, $3 million guaranteed, worth up to $4. Mm-hmm. Good deal. Yeah, so that definitely threw off a lot of things for fantasy football players, especially Damian Williams owners. The Damian Williams truthers, and I was one of them heading into this season. It's kind of a really murky situation right now. It already was before, even with Carlos Hyde being traded to the Houston Texans. You still had Darwin Williams just kind of creeping up in the backfield, looking to see if he could take anything. But no, what do you think about LaShawn McCoy in Kansas City?
I mean, he's back with Andy Reid. I think that Andy Reid has a soft spot for him. I think that's definitely going to get... I mean, they pay him $3 million at least. He's going to get touches. Whether it's going to be a legit committee, I'm not sure. I think that it will be more of a hot hand approach than a genuine committee. But yeah, Damian Williams, I know people were handcuffing him with Darwin Thompson. A lot of people thought that he might even just end up taking over the backfield because if you don't believe in Damian Williams and the fact that Andy Reid typically does switch around his running backs, who was the last guy, sans Kareem Hunt, that started from the beginning of the year to the end of the year for the Kansas City Chiefs?
Right.
But I'm
tough.
Yeah, so I could see what's divided by 3? That'd be a 33 split. But I think Thompson would get less than 33. So I think McCoy and Williams together will probably get 80% and then maybe 20% Darwin Thompson. I don't know. It's a tough situation to figure out. I really wouldn't want to own any of them in fantasy. If there's a back to own, I'd probably say Williams first, and that's a flex. I think that he's kind of off my RB2 radar, at least to start the season now because of this signing. I don't know. Where are you at with it?
Yeah, so at least from a week 1 perspective, it looks like Damian Williams is going to be the guy starting out the game. Like he pointed out, Andy Reid, he's not afraid to switch from one running back to another. Had they felt confident with the running back room pre-LaShawn McCoy, they wouldn't have had to go and sign him. So obviously, right. That gives you the idea that Andy Reid is looking to A, spread the workload around, or B, just kind of keep his guys fresh and look for something extra, within that running back depth chart. So fantasy purposes, like you said, it's definitely going to be a running back by committee approach, and there's not really one guy you want to own. I guess for me, it's still Damian Williams, just because it looks like he's still going to be the main guy. But in Kansas City, in an offense like that, that can change, within 3 or 4 snaps of the game.
Yeah.
Andy Reid came out and said that he really likes LaShawn McCoy. He still feels like he has a lot to offer. He still feels like just treading those tires. And, if that's the offensive mastermind, Andy Reid saying that, then we kind of have to take his word for it.
Yeah. I haven't drafted a Kansas City running back in any of my leagues. And that was before LaShawn McCoy was there. I did draft in a league once LaShawn McCoy was there. But I couldn't. There was the opportunity for me to take him, and I didn't. I don't want any part of that backfield. The more mouths to feed, the worse it is for fantasy owners. We'll see how it plays out, but somebody did draft him, so he's not available anyway. But I wouldn't have felt comfortable drafting him. I'd want to see how things play out for at least a week or two. See where Andy Reid's mindset is as far as who's getting what carries. Game script could also involve that. It might be different week to week. It might just not be, Williams is getting the first drive, LaShawn McCoy's getting the second drive, Thompson will just be a breather back. It might not be that. It might just go based off who we're playing this week, how that game's going. Are we trailing in the game? Although it's the Chiefs, so that's probably not going to be the case most of the time. So I don't know. Maybe you would want the bruising type back, because if they're going to be up in the game to kill the clock later on. Like I said, the more mouths to feed, the worse it is for fantasy owners. So I didn't want any part of that backfield to start the season.
Yeah, I was about to say, the only guy's value who went up in this whole transaction was LaShawn McCoy, and you can make an argument that his value didn't really even skyrocket to begin with. Mm-hmm. He still got a share backfield with Darwin and Damian Williams, so we'll see how that progresses. At the end of the day, it kind of sucks because in fantasy football you're looking for sure things, but if you have a lot of ownership within the Chiefs backfield, it's just going to be one of those things where you have to wait and see.
Yeah, and that's another thing. If you, depending on how many bench spots you get, maybe you take both Damian Williams and LaShawn McCoy and let it play out, and then you drop whichever one hasn't been productive. I unfortunately, I couldn't do that. I'm not dedicating that many roster spots to it. But if you have the extra roster spot, I am in a league where there is 7 bench. So maybe in a league like that, you take both those guys and see how it plays out.
Yeah, I feel like I would be more comfortable kind of rolling the dice on either one of them and then just picking up another running back with that second spot as opposed to rolling both of them.
Yeah. That's interesting too. Yeah.
All right, what you got next?
What do we have next? Let me take a look at the Donnie Drew and notes. So, you put on here who to start in place of Gordon, Eckler, or Jackson. We kind of already touched on this a little bit when we were talking about, we feel way more comfortable with Ezekiel Elliott's situation than Gordon's, and well, look how that's played out now. Ezekiel Elliott's at least back with his team. Gordon, that trade's not happening with Philly, so for anybody looking for Melvin Gordon to be on the move, it's not happening, at least not yet. But we talked about it, and Austin Eckler's the guy that's being higher drafted. I think that he already had, to me, some standalone value with Melvin Gordon there, at least as, a flex play in a PPR league. But Justin Jackson is the more traditional running back, I think, and I think that he is going to end up getting the majority of the carries there in place of Melvin Gordon, which I don't see a situation where Melvin Gordon's back with them anytime soon. So for me, I actually have Austin Eckler in a league just the way it fell, but season long, I believe that Justin Jackson is the back to own in that backfield.
Yeah, so it really comes down to what kind of league you're playing in and what you value. If you value that pass catching running back, which obviously if you're in the points per reception, you definitely should. Yeah. Austin Eckler is the guy, like you said, even when with Melvin Gordon playing, he still has a standalone value. He's still going to be a guy getting you probably 8 to 10 points a game just based off of the receptions and the yardage alone. However, like you said, Justin Jackson showed a lot of promise last year, and he's definitely a more traditional, like you said, ball carrying running back. Just straight through the tackles, not necessarily catch the ball. So I actually did a little bit of digging on this, and I'm going to read you a couple numbers, and I want you to tell me what player you would rather have. So Gordon failed to play in 3 games last year. Mm-hmm. Well, he actually didn't play in 4. but both Jackson and Eckler were only both healthy for 3 of those games. So a combined touch usage percentage is from Fantasy Pros. So the percentage of snaps where they actually touch the ball, whether it be run or pass. So I averaged those through the 3 games they played together. And one of them graded out at 55.6%, and the other graded out at 40.3 in terms of just touching the ball whenever they're on the field. Yeah. So obviously, what play would you rather have? 55 or 40?
Yeah, well, one of them's touching it over half the time he's on the field, so that guy.
Right, Justin Jackson is the one who had the higher percentage of touches, 55.6, and then Eckler with the 40.3, and then I started to check out just fantasy points, how they actually finished, what their actual production was. So Austin Eckler had performances of 11 points, 9 points, and 16 points. It averages out 12 points a game. Justin Jackson had 2 points, 14 points, and 5 points, which averages out to 7 points a game. And then his highest scoring performance, the 14-point game, was the only game where he scored a touchdown in. And I think the proof is definitely in that pudding. Justin Jackson needs touchdowns in order to become a very effective fantasy football running back. And I feel like with Austin Eckler, even if he doesn't score, just because he catches so many passes, I feel like he's the more valuable running back there.
Yeah. And it's more so, with what you're saying there, it's more so because Eckler is taking away from him, not necessarily just what Jackson's doing himself. Because if he, like you said, he's got to score touchdowns to be valuable in fantasy.
Well, if you're looking at it from just a touching the football perspective, Justin Jackson, at least from the numbers last year and what everybody's saying this year, he's going to get more touches than Austin Eckler. The Chargers really believe in him to be that guy moving forward in Melvin Gordon's absence. And, if he can take off and, be this great running back everybody thinks he can be, phenomenal. But, if you're just going on a prior production and almost, if you want to even call it like a sure thing in fantasy football, Austin Eckler's got to be the guy to go to.
Well, good, because I have Austin Eckler, not Justin Jackson. He's projected 14.5 points week 1.
Yeah, man. Melvin Gordon not being there is doing something for his value, that's for sure. Where'd you draft him?
It wasn't early at all. I mean, I'm playing in my flex spot, so he's at best my 3rd running back. Let me see here. That team is... So my running backs in that league are Joe Mixon, Jacobs, Eckler, and Matt Breida. Matt Breida, for what it's worth, was listed ahead of Tevin Coleman on their depth chart.
Really?
Yep. So that might be a situation we should talk about real quick.
Yeah, the 49ers backfield is definitely a catch-22 where, up for grabs, whatever you want to call it. Nobody really knows who's going to emerge out of that backfield. Jerick McKinnon, obviously, is kind of, cut from that scenario with the, was it torn ACL is what he had?
Did he re-tear it? I mean, I just know that he went on IR with a knee injury. I didn't know that he re-tore his ACL, but...
It was something drastic along those lines. But, yeah, the main guys in that backfield now is going to be Tevin Coleman and then Matt Breida. It's pick. It's pick what guy you think can do what. Tevin Coleman's not exactly, a Austin Eckler or Devontae Freeman. He's not a pass-catching running back. But, he's proven to be valuable whenever he's on the field, whereas Matt Breida kind of fits more of that, West Coast up-tempo, just dump the ball after running back on the field. So, him being ahead of Coleman definitely speaks volumes to what Shanahan thinks of him. But, like I said, we haven't seen a single snap of football yet. So, it's all just a wait and see for me.
Yeah, and the thing with Coleman, I think why a lot of people were thinking that was his backfield is the, reuniting with Shanahan, who he had his best years with when he was the offensive coordinator in Atlanta. So, everybody just, and myself included, thought Tevin Coleman's going to Atlanta, he's back with Shanahan, that's going to be the lead back. Not giving Breida enough credit for what he did last year, because he was very good last year.
Yeah, Brady stepped in on an offense that was super lackluster in terms of production outside of George Kittle, especially with Jimmy Garoppolo hurt. No big superstar receivers. The offensive line was a little bit banged up. So he found himself in a situation where The Niners were down in a lot of games, and I think that benefited him from a PPR standpoint. But hopefully everybody's back healthy this year in San Francisco. They got a couple receivers they like over there. Jimmy Garoppolo's going to be starting at the helm this year again, so we'll see.
And this could be a second straight year if Breida ends up taking over that backfield, where he's taken over the backfield after they went out and signed a running back in free agency that was supposed to be that guy for them. Because,
True,
they paid McKinnon all that money. Huh?
That was Carlos Hyde a couple of years ago.
Yeah. And they pay McKinnon last year. Obviously, he probably would have been the lead back, but he tore his ACL. They pay him $7.5 million. Breida ends up being the back there. This year they bring in Tevin Coleman, and I know that it's, you can put however much stock you want into it, but Breida right now is listed as the starter over Tevin Coleman in the depth chart. But they're both going to get work, so...
Yeah, it's going to be a situation similar to Kansas City's where, we're just going to have to see who the hot hand is, and you're going to think the coaching staff's going to roll with them. All right, what do we got next?
One start and one sit for each position.
Good deal. Do you want to kick this off?
Kick it off, or you?
Oh, don't matter. It's up to you. Flip a coin.
I'm not hearing you through my phone right now. I see your mouth moving. I see your audio's getting picked up by my laptop, but
Can you hear me?
Give me 1 sec. Hang on, folks.
We good?
Yo.
What up?
It's so laggy. Your audio is getting picked up fine by my laptop.
Alright, I was on the... I don't know if you can hear me. I just went from LGE to... Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Cool.
We're back. No, everybody's been able to hear us this whole time, so they're probably like, what are these guys talking about? Donnie and I have to be able to hear each other, Donnie and I have to talk through a phone call, so... The day of technical difficulties. Yep, Herb. It's back. You know how it is on Around the 412 Fantasy Football Show. Anyway, so we're doing a start-sit for each position. You want me to start? Because we got lost in translation there.
Oh, no. Yeah, you're good. Go ahead, take it away.
Okay, so at the quarterback position, this is going to come as a surprise. Sit. We're talking tomorrow night, Aaron Rodgers against the Bears. Thoughts?
Interesting. If he could stay healthy, we saw what he did in the second half last year. But, the Bears have the best defense in the league. Is this in Chicago or in Green Bay?
Good question.
Not that it matters that much.
It is in Chicago.
Okay. So that does give me a little bit more confidence towards the Bears defense being able to at least limit him. But, he's under a new offense. And a new head coach, Matt LaFleur, calling on those audibles. So, we'll see how Aaron Rodgers fares. But
is he going to be calling those audibles? Why is that become like such a thing? I get why. It's because of the broken relationship with Rodgers and McCarty. But
I'm not super sure. What's funny is that Sean McVay, the Rams head coach, was actually asked about Jared Goff's new contract. And then he was like, calling audibles, he's like, is this Green Bay? And he made like a little jab back there. So I thought that was funny. But no, Aaron Rodgers, he's not that premier fantasy quarterback that we've known him to be in the past couple of years. So, I think until he can go out and prove it, there's reasonable doubt to sit him. So I don't think that's crazy at all.
Yeah. And it's more about the Bears defense for me than him. I wouldn't be saying sit him if he was playing, against the Dolphins or something. So, which leads me to my start. And it's going to surprise some people. Sorry, Steeler Nation. Diehard Steelers fan. But Lamar Jackson against Miami is a mouth-watering matchup. And from a fantasy perspective, I feel like Lamar Jackson, he's going to add points with his legs, regardless. So, anything that he gives you with his arm is going to be a bonus. Now, real-life football... Don't know how great he's going to be. But we're talking fantasy here. I'm starting Lamar Jackson this week against Miami.
Oh yeah, especially if you're in a league where quarterback scores 6 touchdowns for throwing, and obviously you get the 1 point for every 10 yards that he rushes. So, Miami has one of the worst defenses in the league.
They're only getting worse on purpose.
Yeah, they're only getting worse. Yep, on purpose. Tank for Tua. Quote that hashtag. But Lamar Jackson. We'll see how the passing game can step up in 2019. But purely speaking, from a fantasy perspective, that's essentially running back at the quarterback spot. So you can't be mad at that at all.
Right. All right. So who you starting and sitting?
For sure. So you actually took my starting guy, which is Lamar Jackson. At Miami. But don't worry about that. So my start, it's actually going to be Dak Prescott versus the New York Giants.
I thought about that one too.
Yeah, so, Zeke being, getting that 20, 25 snaps, the game, we'll see how that goes. But Dak Prescott actually is, I feel like he's one of the more underrated fantasy quarterbacks because he can continually go out there and get you 20, 23 points a game. He's got Amari Cooper. He's got a really nice up-and-coming receiver, Michael Gallup. He's got one of the best offensive lines in football, and he has a decent run game to fall back on if need be. He's not a guy who turns the ball over a whole lot. He's a mobile quarterback, so he can get you those points scrambling out of the pocket. So there's a lot to like. The Giants' defense had a lot of turnover going into 2019. Their pass rush doesn't scare me, enough to want to bench Dak Prescott. So that's definitely the guy that I'm going to be starting in Week 1. The guy I'm fading in Week 1 is going to be our boy Big Ben Roethlisberger going to New England. Ben typically never plays well on the road.
Yeah, or in Week 1.
And yeah, or in Week 1. And if we want to take that even to a third step, the Patriots always seem to have his number. Whether or not we want to, face the music, Antonio Brown's not on the team anymore. And while the Steelers do have Juju. No, I'm not. He
breaking news. See, this is why you're on Sports Illustrated. You're breaking news out here.
Anyways. Outside of Juju, obviously, James Washington is a guy a lot of people are looking at this year. Mm-hmm. Dante Moncrief is, a really solid number 2 guy. So, he's definitely still got the weapons there, but, we just need to see him without Antonio Brown. So going on the road Ben is definitely a no-go in fantasy. He was last year, and he is this year for me.
Okay, so real quick, one of my friends, Stubbs, came in here. He is starting Matt Ryan over Mitch Trubisky in Week 1. Is that a good idea?
Good idea. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of Mitch Trubisky. Matt Ryan's in one of the best offenses in the leagues in Atlanta. So, while
Matt Ryan play Minnesota.
They do,
yeah.
And that is a tough matchup, but it's still going to be indoors. Mm-hmm. And, it's Matt Ryan. He's the second best fantasy quarterback last year.
Yeah, I'm starting – who am I starting Matt Ryan over? I'm starting Matt Ryan even though he's projected less points in a league just because, like you said, it's Matt Ryan. For some reason, he's just underrated everywhere in terms of fantasy, and they are playing indoors. So weather will not be a factor for that game, whereas I don't know what it's going to be like in Chicago. But who am I starting him over? Russell Wilson, who plays Cincy. Which, I don't know, that's not a bad matchup either, but...
Not at all, no. But, like we said, it's still Matt Ryan. He's still going to be slinging the ball a whole lot. I don't think the Falcons are keen on giving Devontae Freeman 30 carries a game. So, it's definitely still a pass-first offense. And, he's got Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Austin Hooper is a decent tight end. Mohamed Sanu still on the Falcons. So, that core is still there. And until their production really drops off, you still got to be a Matt Ryan believer.
Yeah. All right, so switching to, I did my receivers next. Sit, and this might surprise some people, not sure, but if you're following the whole thing, the reports out of Jacksonville, I'm going to sit Tyreek Hill. He's going to be shadowed by Jalen Ramsey on Sunday. Do not like that matchup whatsoever for Tyreek Hill. He might win a couple of those battles, but overall, I think that Jalen Ramsey's going to get the better of him, at least in terms of shutting him down from a fantasy perspective. I'm looking at a day like maybe 5 or 6 catches, 50 yards for Tyreek Hill. And if you're expecting him to be your wide receiver 1, that's not going to cut it. So I would sit Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, that's actually my guy to sit as well for the receiver position.
Look at this.
Yeah, I know. Copycat. It's copycat league, man. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Ramsey going to be shadowing him. Hill didn't do too terrible of a job last year whenever Ramsey did shadow him. But still, Tyreek Hill's super fast. He's one of the fastest guys in the league. But when you get a guy like Jalen Ramsey on you, a guy that can run with you and lock you down, he can move with you anywhere through the route, and he's super physical at the line of scrimmage. It's definitely not a good thing to have. It's not like Patrick Mahomes has a big number 2 solidified receiver to try to draw some attention away from him either. So yeah, I definitely agreed. Tyreek Hill, week 1 sit for me. Week 1 start. Who'd you have?
It's funny because Beefy just came in here and said, Jameis Winston will lead him to the promised land. That's a great segue for me. My start is Chris Godwin against San Francisco. Mm-hmm. I think that Mike Evans is going to take away Richard Sherman from him. San Francisco does have Jason Verrett, who's maybe healthy. I don't even know at this point on the other side. But I think Chris Godwin has a big day with Mike Evans taking away a lot of the attention.
Completely agree. Yeah, everybody's on the Godwin hype train this year. Hey, where did he go to school?
Don't want to say it.
Okay, cool.
All I'm saying is they put up 70-some points on Saturday.
Yeah. 79, but who's counting. So my start for week 1 wide receiver is actually going to be Tyler Lockett versus the Cincinnati Bengals. DK Metcalf is still struggling with an injury. There's literally nobody else on Seattle's offense to throw to. Tyler Lockett was one of the most efficient slot receivers in 2018. The Bengals have one of the worst pass defenses in the league and didn't get much better through the offseason. So I think Tyler Lockett is going to eat in week 1.
That was honestly a guy that I was looking at. Like you said, Cincinnati, a lack of weapons other than him for Russell Wilson. It's a pretty mouth-watering matchup. And he's a great daily fantasy play, too, looking at what he's going for on DraftKings and FanDuel.
But no, it's illegal in Arizona, so.
Yeah, true. Sorry, for anybody in Arizona, don't listen to that. I'm not advocating. I'm not advocating for you to get a VPN and change your location. I'm not advocating for it. All right, moving to the running back position. Sorry, Skyler, I am sitting Todd Gurley. They play Carolina. I know that they're looking to take some of the work off of him. That's why they drafted Henderson in the 3rd round out of Memphis. I think that he will get somewhere between 10 to 12 carries and take that work away from Gurley. I want to see what Gurley's situation is in terms of with his knees. Obviously, that was a huge storyline towards the end of the season last year. So, at least for week 1, until I see what Gurley looks like in 2019, I'm sitting him.
Can't blame you at all. The arthritis is definitely something to keep an eye on. The Rams went out and drafted a running back within the first 4 rounds of the draft.
He went 3, round 3.
Yeah, 3. Yep. They're super keen on either Malcolm Brown or Darrell Henderson to take over that Rams backfield if Todd Gurley does go down. If they're smart, they'll limit his touches. So that's kind of cause for fantasy worries right there. But no, I completely agree. Until we see, if Todd Gurley even looks the same, because the last couple games we saw him, garbage, total garbage, just from touching the ball standpoint.
Yeah.
He wasn't the Todd Gurley we knew him to be. So we all knew something was wrong. It got confirmed later in the offseason. So we'll see how the Rams proceed from there.
Yeah. So who's your sit?
My sit of the week at the running back position is going to be Josh Jacobs, the Oakland Raiders rookie running back. Yeah, a lot of people are super high on him, and a super talented kid, don't get me wrong. But Monday Night Football playing the Denver Broncos, we have arguably the best front 7 in all of football. It's just not a recipe for disaster. I'm not a big believer in Derek Carr. I don't think Derek Carr can go out and throw for 300, 350 yards. I don't think Antonio Brown's going to do much damage, against the Broncos secondary. So I think that's, while that offense does have potential, I don't think it reaches its height in week 1. And I think the Broncos are going to do a good job of shutting Josh Jacobs down and forcing Derek Carr to win the game.
Second year Bradley Chubb is going to be a problem.
I agree. I completely agree. I was surprised Cleveland passed on Bradley Chubb to take Denzel Ward, actually.
Man. Yeah, they could have had...
God.
Nothing against Denzel Ward, but yeah. What a draft. Yeah. My start at the running back position, I'm assuming Stubbs is not going to like this because he was an owner and he screwed him over in the past. Dalvin Cook, finally healthy, playing the Atlanta Falcons, who were the worst fantasy football defense last year in terms of giving points to running backs. I think Minnesota does run heavy against them, which is a reason that I'm not that high on Kirk Cousins this week. But, yeah, Dalvin Cook, start him.
Yeah, I'm a huge Dalvin Cook fan. I've been wanting him to get healthy for forever. If this is actually the year that he can't stay healthy, he's going against one of the league's worst overall defenses for the Atlanta Falcons.
And they are getting some pieces back. I mean, they had a lot of injuries last year, but
yeah, they did. Yep, super correct. My starting running back is going to be Leonard Fournette against the Kansas City Chiefs. Now that Leonard Fournette is healthy, knock on wood, presumably, as far as I know, he is. That is the definition of a bell cow running back. Leonard Fournette should see about 30 carries this game, and we all know whenever Leonard Fournette gets a healthy dose of carries, he just produces out the wazoo. He's going against Kansas City's, I think, bottom 4 run defense in 2018. They did get Frank Clark, so that obviously is going to help Kansas City. Obviously, I can't say something obviously, man. God damn, Mike Tomlin. That is going to help them out in terms of run support. But, with a guy like Leonard Fournette, his offensive line is getting healthy again. Blake Bortles isn't at quarterback. They have a competent quarterback in Nick Foles. So I think as long as the pieces are there for Fournette, to be productive and he can stay healthy, then he's going to be a top 10 running back in fantasy.
I think not necessarily season long. The key for week 1, Leonard Fournette having a big week, is Jacksonville's defense. And they got to keep Kansas City out of the end zone so that they can run the ball. If they get behind early and Kansas City gets up, starts putting points on the board, and Jacksonville has to throw it, that completely eliminates Leonard Fournette from the game.
No,
but I feel like Jacksonville's going to be able to do that.
He can catch the ball.
Yeah.
They just don't throw it to him a lot.
Yeah.
They used to have TJ Yeldon for that, but now he's gone.
Yeah. Is he in Buffalo still?
He is, yeah. He was actually one of my waiver wire pickups that we'll discuss a little bit later.
A preview there for the rest of the show. All right, so sitting at the tight end position, David Njoku against Tennessee. Tennessee gave up the 7th fewest points to tight ends last year. Also, with all the mouths to feed in Cleveland, I just think it's a combination for him to not have a great game against Tennessee.
Yeah, Njoku, he has all the talent in the world, but, sometimes he just kind of fails to produce. And maybe that was a little bit pre-Baker, but he needs to be a top 5 fantasy tight end for how good we've seen him to be. So, it's tough. Tennessee, has one of the most underrated defenses in the NFL. So you definitely don't ever want to count them out. My guy is going to sit is actually on the opposite side of that. Was going to be Delanie Walker, Tennessee Titans tight end.
I don't know. Did you see what he was saying?
What did he say?
He was running his mouth about the Browns. Well, he was actually questioned about the Browns.
No.
He was asked about the Browns' hype, and he said, that's all it is hype. They can take all the hype that they want and stuff like that. He actually went at it with a fan.
I'm glad he decided to piss Myles Garrett off even more. So good for him.
Without Taylor Lewan.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Suspended for the first 4 games. So,
Myles Garrett could win Defensive Player of the Year in Week 1.
On top of the garbage quarterback situation in Tennessee, I'm not a big believer in Derrick Henry. Also a guy you should sit in Week 1. I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball very well. While I do like Delanie Walker, health issues are another big thing. Is he actually going to be able to stay healthy for a full game? I can't believe I'm asking myself that, but that's something you really have to sit back and evaluate for 2019. And, Cleveland's defense had a couple of key pieces in the offseason, along with their young core just getting better. So, I don't trust a quarterback in Tennessee, whether it's, Mariota or is it Tannehill back at quarterback?
That's actually, I brought up on our show, I think I brought it up when we were recording, the fact that one of my hot takes for this season is that Mariota doesn't finish the year as the starting quarterback in Tennessee. It's Tannehill. And then they draft somebody.
I would bet money that exactly happens, like you said.
I'm about to bet money on it. I wonder if I can throw some cash on that.
Hey, you probably can.
A prop bet.
Somewhere. Yeah, somewhere on...
My start at tight end, I'm curious to see if we can get a third linked up here with both of us. Because I know you like him. Hunter Henry against Indianapolis.
Yep, that was my guy.
Boom. Hunter Henry's healthy, playing a Colts defense that is not good at all against tight ends. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams are going to take a lot of pressure away from him. Even Austin Eckler out of the backfield, as we've already brought up on the show. I think Hunter Henry has a big day. If we're talking pure numbers here, I'm going to give him a touchdown, and I'm also going to give him somewhere between 75 and 100 yards receiving.
Wow.
Big day.
Wow. I'll take it. As a Hunter Henry truther, I would definitely take that.
Where did he go to college?
Hunter Henry. I'm not super sure.
I don't think it's like a...
I'm going to be mad whenever I see this on my computer. Let's see. College. University of Arkansas.
Oh, I wouldn't have guessed that.
Big Suey.
For some reason, I was thinking it was like a Fresno State type or something like that.
See, I was thinking it's like a Big Ten school because all the good tight ends come out of those.
True.
And Jesse James.
All right, so was that your start too, you said?
Yeah.
Or you just okay. I didn't know if you were just saying that because you were a Hunter Henry guy or...
Oh, no.
So we had start Hunter Henry, sit Tyreek Hill, and start Lamar Jackson. Both of us.
Yep.
Even you ended up picking another one for quarterback, but yeah, that's your original pick.
We'll take it.
Not bad. All right, so waiver wire pickups. The season has not started yet, but obviously, we're getting new information every day that is massive for the NFL, including today with Ezekiel Elliott. So, waiver wire pickups. What did you have in mind when you put this on the list?
So one, I apologize for not clarifying with you a little bit earlier. So I basically looked at guys around that 50% ownership on ESPN, just around the area, not too high, not too low. And I just looked at guys who could probably, give your team a couple points within the first couple weeks. And I just picked one from each position. Oh,
gotcha. Okay.
So right, I can give you mine and you can react to it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Perfect. Okay, so my quarterback, 53% of people have him on the team in ESPN, is going to be your boy Jameis Winston. He plays San Francisco this week, so Bruce Arians is now at the helm of that offense. Everybody kind of expects a revival year underneath him. So last year, Winston averaged 23.5 points per game the last 7 weeks of the season, and he hit plus 40 points twice. So if you're looking for a quarterback on the waiver wire, chances are, you didn't draft very high at the position to begin with. So, at the worst case scenario, you can pick a guy up like Jameis Winston. And, while he is boom or bust, he's kind of the textbook definition of it. He can really pop off for like 30, 40 points a game if you need him to.
Right. Okay.
Good. Cool. So running back, I wanted to go Justin Jackson. He's rostered on 32% of teams, but for obvious reasons, we already kind of touched on him, so I wanted to go a different direction. We alluded to him earlier, so I went T.J. Yeldon, who currently plays for the Buffalo Bills. LaShawn McCoy is gone. Yep, definitely. Devin Singletary is the lead back. Expected to be the lead back in Buffalo, but the problem is the Buffalo Bills have a okay receiving core. They have a second-year quarterback who knows how he's going to pan out. So, case in point, they're going to dump the ball off a lot to either their tight end or their running back. T.J. Yeldon is the only pass-catching running back on that roster. So I feel like there's a lot of upside. I don't think the floor is super low. T.J. Yeldon was only owned in, I think, like 10% of leagues. For obvious reasons, yeah. So obvious reasons, if your running back position is super thin, he's definitely a guy you should take a look at.
Okay. All right. As you're saying this, I am getting some, so I'll go after you.
Oh, no, you're good. My receiver was Geronimo Allison. He was rostered in 58% of leagues. Yep. So he was healthy for basically only the first 3 weeks of last year, but whenever he averaged 16 points a game. So we know what he can do. He's a monster whenever he's healthy. He's a clear number 2 behind Devontae Adams when healthy. Aaron Rodgers seems to like him a lot. I think he likes him more than Marquez Valdes-Scantling. As long as he can stay healthy, and that's kind of been the theme of, I feel like, every fantasy player we've talked about. But, Allison, he's available in almost 4 out of 10 leagues. So if he's not picked up on a roster yet, there's no shame in trying to stash him on your bench because he could really break out.
Geronimo Allison. And I was going to ask before you ended up saying that, but you're higher on him than Marquez Valdes-Scantling?
I am, yeah. So I will say that it's kind of a coin flip right now as to who the number 2 receiver is for the Green Bay Packers. But it looks like it's going to be Geronimo Allison right now. That could change, obviously. Like we said before, no football is yet to be played. We'll see the Packers and play tomorrow night, and then we'll kind of get like a little bit clearer picture on what the Packers want to do with those two. But I think Allison's the guy to start out.
Okay.
We do. Wrap it up, the tight end position, I said Mark Andrews. So I feel like he's one of the best kind of values in terms of waivers. So he actually had one of the best rookie seasons ever, fantasy-wise, for a tight end last year. But he only played in about 35% of snaps. And I think his upside is limited there. So he's on about 40% of leagues. His upside is limited just because the Ravens are a run-first team. And, obviously that can't hurt him. But whenever Lamar Jackson does decide to pass the ball, Mark Andrews has been his target. And he produces frequently well whenever targeted. So, if you're banking on Lamar Jackson upping his passing game in 2019, I think Mark Andrews is the guy to own.
Okay. All right, so I was not using ESPN. I was using Yahoo, and that's just because it's where my leagues are, so I clicked on that. All right, so at the quarterback position, I've kind of talked about him already. Josh Allen is owned in 33% of leagues. He's going to add points for you just with his legs alone. If you look at the last quarter of the season last year, he was QB1 in fantasy. How? I just mentioned it, because he runs. Maybe not designed runs, but he's running for his life, and he gets yards on the ground. So Josh Allen is only owned in 33% of the leagues. They play the Jets week 1, I think. Who do they play? I was just looking at Jets. Okay, yeah. So Josh Allen, week 1. If you need him, not a bad choice. Also in that game, my wide receiver, Jamison Crowder, coming over from Washington. Robbie Anderson's a little banged up right now with a calf injury. Jamison Crowder's got to play in the slot. I'm not super high on Sam Darnold, but I think that Sam Darnold will look without Chris Herndon for 4 games at tight end. So I think that there's opportunity there for Jamison Crowder. He's only owned in 46% of leagues in Yahoo. So Jamison Crowder, not a bad flyer if you need him as a flex play. Hopefully you have 2 receivers already, because I don't know if I want him in my wide receiver 2 spot, but as a flex, I think I'd be willing to throw the dart at that one. At running back, a situation that we've kind of already talked about with Andrew Luck retiring. Nyheim Hines, the second running back in Indianapolis, owned in less than 50% of leagues as well. I think there's going to be opportunity. Also, obviously, Marlon Mack's the first running back there, but he's not going to stay on the field the entire game. I think Nyheim Hines gets a decent amount of work. And once again, a guy that I wouldn't mind throwing a dart at. If you look at what's available at the running back position, there's not much. So when it comes down to it, you're looking at a guy just maybe get on the field, maybe touch the ball, 5 to 7 times or something like that. And I think Nyheim Hines will definitely do that on Sunday. And then at tight end, I'm not necessarily surprised that he's on less than 50% of the leagues based off what he did last year. But Jimmy Graham is owned in 46% of the leagues. And that is a huge flyer to take, a huge risk to take at this point. But I'm banking on a new offense, Aaron Rodgers hopefully getting something out of him, squeezing the last bit of juice that's left out of Jimmy Graham, and Jimmy Graham doing something. Because I just recently picked him up because I am not trusting Eric Ebron. Eric Ebron was my tight end too anyway, but I am not trusting anybody that's catching passes in Indy anymore. I'll take the guy that has Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback. So I picked up Jimmy Graham. I only need him to do well for 1 week, which isn't this week. But if you really need a tight end, Jimmy Graham's on less than 50% of the leagues, and he's Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball. So I think you could take a worse risk than that.
Yeah, I died on the Jimmy Graham hill last year, so I can't agree with you there. But I understand, as long as Aaron Rodgers could have a tackling dummy as receiver, and I might pick him up just because.
Waiver wire pickup.
Yeah. Number 66 tackling dummy.
Okay, so Beefy's in here. Winston and Allen are Beefy's quarterbacks now because of Andrew Luck's retirement. So he said, which one should he go with this week? I would say Winston.
I would say Winston, yeah. Josh Allen has a tough matchup against the Jets. I think the Jets have one of the more underrated defenses in the leagues. Winston, he's going to be slinging the ball 35, 40 times this game. So, hopefully it's touchdowns and not interceptions.
Yeah, I'm definitely saying Winston. I just said Allen is my guy off waiver wires, but that's off the guys that are, out there, less than 50%. We were going based off of, which Winston doesn't fall into that category. So I would pick Winston over Josh Allen.
Agreed.
And what else do we have?
Last but not least, we have our top 5 matchups for week 1.
Right. Okay.
So we just went through each position, obviously quarterback, running back, receiver, and tight end. Went through and picked the top 5 matchups we felt like, were fantasy gold for each position. I guess I'll go ahead and start it off with my quarterbacks. So top 5 matchups for the quarterbacks. Number 5, I have Pat Mahomes at Jacksonville. I know we kind of railed Tyreek Hill a little bit for having the tough Jalen Ramsey matchup, but I feel like, you always have to roll the dice on Pat Mahomes, especially with everybody in his offense. He was still able to put up 20-plus points against Jacksonville last year. So, you got to roll the dice with that and hope that, Andy Reid can give him a good game plan to work around. Number 4, I have Dak Prescott against the New York Giants. Touched on that a little bit earlier. Prescott doesn't turn the ball over. He's able to make plays with his feet. He's got one of the best one of the best young receivers in Amari Cooper, and that guy Ezekiel Elliott just signed with him, so that should benefit him as well. 3, just talking about him, Jameis Winston versus the 49ers. I think Winston has a field day against the 49ers defense. Number 2 and number 1 are actually going to be the Monday night matchup this week. So I got Drew Brees versus the Texans at number 2 and Deshaun Watson versus New Orleans at number 1. I think that's going to be a super high-scoring game. I think it's going to be an offensive slugfest, and I feel like both quarterbacks are going to do well, but I'm going to give the edge to Watson.
Okay, so a lot of the same names. You have to, even though he has a very tough matchup, like Pat Mahomes has to be in your top 5.
Yeah.
And you put him right at 5, and I'm going to do the same. I struggled because of the matchup to say this guy belongs in the top 5 matchups, but, it's Pat Mahomes. He threw for 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns last year in his first year as a full-time starter, so you can't leave him out of your top 5. Number 2, Baker Mayfield against Tennessee. I do like number 4. I do like Tennessee's defense, but I love Baker Mayfield's matchups. When I look at Odell Beckham Jr., when I look at Jarvis Landry, I know that I'm fading David Njoku a little bit. No Antonio Callaway. I think Rashard Higgins could step up a little bit this week, and I'd like Chubb to open things up in the backfield. Number 3, Russell Wilson against Cincinnati. Another good matchup. Weather is supposed to play a factor in that game. As of right now, it's supposed to be rainy, so, I'm a little weary of doing this, but Russell Wilson, with what he has with his legs as well, running for his life behind what's been a terrible offensive line for most of his tenure there, yet remaining a very solid quarterback, whether it be in fantasy or real life. I love Russell Wilson. I like him as my number 3 spot. And same as you with the top 2, and I believe the same order because you want Breeze at 2 and Watson at 1, correct? Yep, both in the Dome, Monday Night Football, Breeze at 2, Watson 1 for me.
Yeah, that's the struggle because I didn't just want to throw big names into our top 5 because I really wanted to look at the matchups every quarterback or even like every position had and kind of mix the big names because you can't leave Pat Mahomes out.
Yeah.
Like we talked about earlier. So that's kind of the power struggle we have. So running backs, number 5. Same with Mahomes, same with Saquon Barkley. I don't care. I don't care who he's playing. He's got to be in the top 5. Top 5. So Barkley is going to be at Dallas. He'll be my number 5 spot. Caught fucking double-digit passes against the Cowboys last year, his rookie year. Obviously the Giants offense, whether it's Eli or Daniel Jones moving forward, Saquon's going to get a lot of attention. We've seen what he can do when he gets in the open field. Number 4, I have Dalvin Cook at Atlanta. I have to hope Cook is healthy and fully recovered. Number 3 is going to be Mark Ingram at the Dolphins. I think this is a super, super big matchup. I think Mark Ingram is a super downhill, underrated runner. And, in the run-first offense of Baltimore, and going against one of the league's worst defenses in Miami, Baltimore is expected to slaughter them, and that means running the ball late in the game, try to get that clock down. I think Mark Ingram has one of the highest ceilings for Week 1 in terms of running backs. Number two, I already touched on him already. Leonard Fournette versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Fantasy football is all about volume, and Leonard Fournette, when he's healthy, gets all of the volume. And then number one, Alvin Kamara versus the Houston Texans. Again, I kind of hate to be Captain Obvious, but he's one of the best running backs in the league. He does it both on the ground and through the air, and he's super effective whenever Drew Brees gets the ball in his hands.
Right. Okay. So I got Leonard Fournette at 5. I'm with you with KC. Not being that great on the run, there's going to be a little bit of a difference this year with Frank Clark and maybe even Tyrann Mathieu stepping up and playing in the box a little bit, the Honey Badger. But I like Leonard Fournette at least for week 1. Number 4, Dalvin Cook in Atlanta. Number 3, Nick Chubb against the Titans. Number 2, apparently he's going to touch the ball 50 times in his return to football, Le'Veon Bell. I want to see it. I got to put him on my list just because I want to see him touch the ball 50 times. And number 1, we're both on the same page, Alvin Kamara. I would have Saquon Barkley as my number 6. He's another guy, like you said with Pat Mahomes. Like, I want to put him in my top 5, but Dallas's defense is the most underappreciated defense, I think, in football. Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch, and I think Saquon Barkley's going to have a good game, but I struggle putting him in my top 5.
But we're talking about top 5 performance, and it's what we gotta expect. It doesn't matter if he's gonna have a good game. We're trying to nail the top 5 guys who are going to produce in week 1. So.
Stubbs just mentioned Joe Mixon as well, and he's another guy that I thought about putting there. Like I mentioned, weather is supposed to play a factor in that Cincinnati-Seattle game, so he's another guy right on the cusp. I think that Joe Mixon is a legit RB1 for fantasy, so he's once again right on that cusp where I thought about putting him in my top 5. He's probably like the 7th guy that I would put just behind Saquon.
I would definitely have him around that area. A lot of people are kind of hammering him because AJ Green's hurt, his offensive line is banged up. That just means more opportunity for Joe Mixon. Whether it be passing or trying to establish their own early in the game. But we see how talented Mixon is. It's just a matter of getting him the ball enough times to kind of produce. So, top 5 receivers. Number 5, Tyler Lockett versus Cincinnati. Like I said, it's Tyler Lockett and nobody else week 1 for the Seattle Seahawks, so you should see a lot of targets there. Number 4, Julian Edelman versus the Steelers. It happens every time the Steelers and the Patriots play. Chris Hogan's not on the team anymore, so there has to be one white receiver that has to do damage against the Steelers.
Yep.
It's Julian Edelman. He was wide open last year. He's going to find himself wide open again this year. So I think he has a pretty decent game. Number 3, I have Odell Beckham at the Titans. I think Odell is going to have his best year of his career in Cleveland. I think he's got all the tools around him. I don't care who's matched up against him. He is the most talented, raw, athletic receiver we have seen since Randy Moss. So you put him with a guy like Baker and, some very talented offensive minds, drawing all the plays, and I think that's kind of good cause for really exciting results. Number 2 and number 1, I guess, are going to stay in that Houston-New Orleans matchup. I got
man.
I know it's hard. It's hard, man. So I got Michael Thomas at 2, and then DeAndre Hopkins at 1.
I was hoping maybe you went with a different. Oh wait, no, you said okay. Yeah, you're good. All right. So, all right. My number 5 mentioned him a little bit earlier. You look at Tampa Bay's receivers and you think of Mike Evans, but Chris Godwin is the guy, at least for week 1. He's my number 5 receiver on the list. Number 4, Amari Cooper in Dallas. He was a wide receiver 1, legit wide receiver 1 when he got to Dallas last year. He gets to play a full season now with that. He had the off season. I think he has a great year this year and puts up wide receiver 1 numbers again over a full season. Wide receiver 3 for me this week. You just mentioned him, Odell Beckham. We're going to have the same top 3, a little bit of different order. Odell Beckham Jr. going against Tennessee. I just mentioned that, Cleveland. I like Baker Mayfield's matchup against Tennessee. I do not like David Njoku this week, but I like both the receivers' matchups with Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry. Obviously, Odell Beckham Jr. more. I put him at wide receiver 3. That Monday Night Football matchup is going to be explosive. Going to be a great game. I'm going Hopkins at 2 and Thomas at 1. Just because I think that Thomas sees a little bit more volume. I think that Watson is going to spread it out a little bit more, and Thomas will probably have like a 13 to 15 reception game.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, I'm super excited for that. Bank on it. Put it in the bank. Bank on it. All right. top 5 tight end matchups to wrap up the
Man,
segment.
this is going to be there's because the consensus top 3 tight ends. Like, how do you go outside this?
I was about to say, I know we're trying to look at matchups, but if you try to get cute and leave any of those top 3, being Kelsey, Kittle, or Ertz, outside your top 5, then you kind of take a walk, man. What are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
The tight end depth is just so sparse outside the top 3. It's crazy. But number 5, Hunter Henry at the Indianapolis Colts. The man is back. We said time and time again, we've always referenced how he's produced better than Rob Gronkowski whenever he's healthy. He's going against a Indianapolis defense without Melvin Gordon on his roster. So definitely looking for Phillip Rivers to reconnect with him there. Number 4, I have Zach Ertz versus the Washington Redskins. So Zach Ertz, obviously top 3 fantasy tight end. I'm waiting to see what Dallas Goedert will eat into in 2019. Not that I think that decreases Ertz's value at all. I just want to see how much more Dallas Goedert is involved in that game plan going forward. Number 3, I have my guy Evan Ingram. Week 1 versus Dallas. It's nobody else on that Giants roster besides Saquon Barkley catching passes in week 1. So I expect Evan Ingram to have a very good game, regardless of the actual outcome of the scoreboard. Number 2, I have George Kittle versus Tampa Bay. And number 1, I have Travis Kelce versus Jacksonville.
Okay. I mean, I have the same top 5, but where I ranked them is a little bit differently. You have Kelce at number 1, which is completely understandable. That's the number 1 tight end. But the Jacksonville matchup makes me knock him down a peg. But I'll get into that. He's my number 2. At number 5, I go Evan Ingram, as you mentioned, your guy. At number 4, I will go with Zach Ertz. At number 3, I go with Hunter Henry. At number 2, I go with Travis Kelce, and at number 1, Kittle.
Completely understandable.
Who do you think is on Jacksonville is going to be focusing on Kelce? Obviously, Telvin Smith's not there, but
it's got to be one of the safeties, right?
I would assume so.
Yeah, because I don't.
They don't have that. I mean, Miles Jack.
Maybe, but I wouldn't trust him to fully cover Travis Kelce for 60 minutes.
Yeah.
Let me. I want to see who their safeties are because I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Is Barry Church still there?
Sit down on the chink. So it's going to be Ronnie Harrison and Jared Wilson.
Oh, okay. Well, Ronnie Harrison, it was very good last year in his rookie year, even though they got him in the 3rd round, and I was upset about it.
Yeah, so there's no linebackers, especially in the 4-3 where they take a linebacker off the field. There's no linebackers.
So Ronnie Harrison, is it Ronnie Harrison then?
I think that's who we're sticking with.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that Jacksonville would get creative. They have such a good defense. I think Travis Kelce still going to get his, but I don't know. I think I give Kittle a little bit of an advantage over him for week 1 just because of that matchup against Jacksonville. Stubb said Big Vance. Vance did score a touchdown against Patriots last year.
He did. Yep, that's true. Justin James isn't there to take off the snap, so we'll see. Randy Fichtner said that he's not going to play the whole entire game, so I don't know what he meant by that, but everybody kind of took that and ran with it on Twitter.
Right on the cusp for me, too, was Jared Cook, once again going back to that Monday Night Football game.
Yeah. I just need to know how much Cook is going to be favored by Breeze before I really put any big stock into him. But if there's one offense you're going to trust a fantasy tight end to produce it, it's going to be that offense.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. You want to have as many fantasy guys as you can in that matchup, I feel like. You got anybody for Houston, New Orleans, just throw them in there.
Right.
All right, well, I think that pretty much wraps things up. The next time we talk to everybody, there will have been NFL games played.
Dude,
a lot of people are going to be 1-0. Some people are going to be 0-1. If you're in a league that you somehow can get it, please, for the love of God, everybody get in a league that plays decimals, because I hate seeing ties, but obviously there is the occasional tie. But, yeah, I don't know. Tweet at us. Let us know what you want to see more of, less of. Let us know if you have any ideas for cool segments. We're always looking to stay on our toes and do things that people want to see and listen to. So if you have any ideas for what we can do, just throw them our way. Once again, if you're listening to this but not on Twitch, if you're listening on whatever the platform might be, whether it be Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spreaker itself, head on over to Twitch, hit that little notification thing when you follow us, and you'll get every notification when we go live, so you can come join us live and type in the chat like our great friends here that come and join us every week. Go to the YouTube page and subscribe. You can watch this live there, so you don't come back to Twitch and watch the VOD, but you can still see our beautiful faces. You can subscribe to us. This is September. I don't know if you knew that, Donnie.
September.
Or anybody listening. You get, if you are a first-time subscriber, you get a discount. I think it's a discounted price when you subscribe. So, yeah. So head on over, hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, like us on Facebook. You can follow our personal Twitters. Donnie, hit them with it.
At Donnie Druin. Super complicated. I know you'll find me.
I know. And Z23 Smitty. So hit us with those follows. Like I said, tweet at us. We love interacting with people. We got our friend Tyler that we're going to be helping him through his complicated-ass fantasy league the entire season. So follow us on everything. Like us on everything. Head on over. And we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.